We're going to over to Mirabelle. Yeah, girl. Take it away.
Alright, before we begin, I just want to tell you guys I have so much information to share with you. I'm very excited, so if I'm talking too fast, that's why I have a lot to say. Okay, without further ado, my name is Mirabelle Bernan, and my topic is the evolution of society. Alright, I want to take you guys back to the past, the 1800s. Now imagine living in a world where there was no electricity. You couldn't turn on the light with a flip of a switch, you had to use candles. Nowadays, at this time period, it's getting dark by 5 o'clock, so you were most likely in bed by then and up at the crack of dawn. Right? Now, we didn't have texting, you didn't have emailing, you all had to write letters by hand. So difficult, right? So you had to wait days, weeks for someone to receive that letter. And then you had to wait that same amount until they reply back to you. I know some of you guys are impatient, you can't even wait 2 seconds for someone to reply to your text message. Alright, now food supply. People often hunted their own food, or they farmed their own crops, or if you're wealthy, you owned slaves to do it for you. Transportation. People didn't have cars, they were either walking, or if they were wealthy enough, they had horses, horse carriages, or used trains. Alright, education. People couldn't go on Google and search up the question that they had and get an answer within 5 seconds. They had to go to the library. They had to check out their own books, go to the table of contents, find their answer themselves. Alright, now I want to talk to you guys about Cold Mountain, this book that we read in English. So unfortunately, Z isn't here right now. So this book, Cold Mountain, was, is Johnson making me nervous? Okay, this book, Cold Mountain, was written by Charles Frazier, and it was his first book. And it was pretty good for his first book because he won a Nobel Prize for it. It was on New York Times bestseller for more than a year. And it took him 7 years to write it. He said in an interview, "I'm a very slow writer. Some days he would only write 1 paragraph a day." And it's about this man named Inman. He's the main character. And he's trying to make it back home to Cold Mountain during the brutal days of the Civil War. He got wounded in the hospital and then he deserted. Alright, so Cold Mountain is an actual place. It is located in Haywood County, North Carolina. It's over 6,000 feet tall in elevation. Now, Charles Frazier is the author of the story. He was born in Asheville, North Carolina in 1950. He is still alive. He is 63 years old, and he has major accomplishments. He's graduated, and he's earned his Master of Arts degree. He's also earned his PhD in English. So after that, he decided to teach English part-time. And after that, he decided to write books. So he has a wife named Catherine who teaches accountancy, and he also has a daughter named Annie. As of today, he is living on a ranch and he's raising horses. W.P. Inman. This is the real character of the story. He's an actual person. Inman is what everybody calls it. That's his last name. So W.P. Inman was Charles Frazier, the author's great-great-uncle. So his real name was William P. Inman. And on actual service records, it says that he was wounded July 1st, 1862 at the Battle of Malvern Hill, Virginia. And then he deserted the hospital at September 5th, 1862, that same year. And he also has 5 brothers, and they all served in the Civil War. On the very last page of Cold Mountain, the acknowledgments, he acknowledged Inman himself by saying, "Finally, I would like to offer apologies for the greater liberties I have taken in W.P. Inman's life and the geography surrounding Cold Mountain, 6,030 feet." Now, Charles Frazier often uses tone and mood. He uses connotations to express all these feelings to help you feel the way that he wants you to. Now, what exactly are tone and mood? Tone is the way the author feels toward the material. A mood is the way as you, as the reader, feel while reading the story. Now, Inman, he is a man he doesn't like war. But back then, you were pretty much forced to, whether you were, unless you were too young, too old, or you were injured. So, Frazier often uses words like death and horrific to express the way that Inman feels about the war. Another way that Frazier expresses tone and mood is by referencing to songs, hymns such as Wayne Gang Stranger. Okay, so I want to start off with my product today, guys. So it's actually a karaoke version, so I want you all to sing with me if you can. You guys seem like a boring crowd today, so if you want to prove me wrong. It's a hymn, and it's about it's a religious sure most of you don't know the lyrics, but it's all don't be shy. You guys are funny.
While traveling through this world of woe, there's no sickness, toil or danger in that bright road to which I go. I know it is see my Father.
Really big breaker here. Now think about why Charles Bridger actually referenced to the song in the first place. Think about this song compared to modern day music. You guys like the song? Okay. Wayfaring actually means someone who's traveling on foot. And it's about this man who's traveling on his way to heaven. And he's on his way to meet his mother, his father, everyone who's gone on before him.
I know my way is rough and steep.
Sorry, I didn't make this.
Where boundaries lead, there road dwells to see my mother. She said she'd be me when I come. I wanna go
Thank you guys for participating. Okay. Now, calm down a little bit. That's my presentation. Okay. Now, Ada and Ruby were two other characters. Ada was a woman with an education. She was wealthy. She knew all about algebra and French and piano and all of these things. So her father dies, and now she's left to run the farm by herself. So she realized all these things that she learned in school is not going to help her survive. It's not going to help her on the farm. So a woman named Ruby comes in and helps her teach her everything that she needs to know about harvesting crops, about hunting, everything that she needs to know. So from the context, we can assume that Ruby is a black woman, and but she does not want to be treated as a slave. So now let's get into slavery during the Civil War. Guys, there was nothing civil about this. This was like the real Hunger Games. Okay, now some background information. It started in 1861 and ended in 1865. It was a 4-year war. The South was becoming the South remained agrarian, while the North was becoming more and more industrialized. Now here is a map. As you can see, the blue are the northern states, and the southern states are in gray, while the green are territories that were not yet claimed as states. Right, now, the U.S. Civil War was actually the first war to be photographed. 1 in 10 soldiers were African Americans. And at the beginning of the war, the northern states had 22 million people on their side, while the southern states had 9 million people on their side. And the northern states won, while rebellious states returned back to the Union. Right. Now, I wanted to include how much they got paid. A white Union private made $13 a month. The blacks made $7 a month until Congress changed that in 1864, and a Confederate private made about $11 a month. All right, now here is a graph of how many people died compared in the Civil War compared to other wars. The first bar here is how many people died in the Civil War. We can relate that to like World War II, Vietnam War, everything. The Civil War was the one where most people died. Now we get into the battles within the Civil War. There were several battles, but the bloodiest one had to have been Gettysburg. Now tensions started rising when Abraham Lincoln became the 16th president of the United States. Everybody knows that Abraham Lincoln was famous for his emancipation of the slaves, so he was an anti-slavery president. So the southern states were afraid, maybe Lincoln is going to abolish slavery. So that caused tension, and slavery was actually the primary cause of the Civil War. The northern states were gradually building up to abolish slavery completely, while the southern states, they depended on it. They felt like they needed it. Now, Uncle Tom's Cabin, it was an anti-slavery novel, and it was written by Harriet Beecher Stowe. And what's interesting is that she demanded for equality that the United States promised that it would deliver, but she was not a black woman. She was actually a white woman. And it sold 10,000 copies in the first week and 1.5 million in a year. Fun fact, did you guys know that the banjo, most people think that, the white people often use banjos, I'm sorry, but actually African Americans used banjos a lot. They incorporated music and dance into their culture. And the consequences of the Civil War, more than 4 million slaves were free, and it established a more powerful and centralized federal government, and America became the superpower of the world. Sickle cell anemia. One of the reasons why people used slaves in the first place was because they were immune to malaria. They carried one single sickle cell gene. So what does this all mean? Get into genetics. The sperm and the egg cells, they're both haploids. Each of them are 23 chromosomes. When they come together, they form a zygote, and that makes 46 chromosomes. 99.5% of your cells are diploid cells, 46 chromosomes, except for the sperm and egg. Phenotype is the way that you look. Your eyes, your hair color, the appearance. Genotype is what you can't see, like sickle cell anemia in your DNA. Allele is a gene or characteristic. Heterozygous is when you carry 2 different alleles. Homozygous is when you have the same. Okay, Gregor Mendel, he was known as the father of genetics. He was a monk and a scientist, and he discovered everything about genetics in his monastery garden. The Mendel's law. The first law is segregation, and the second law is independent assortment. Now right here we have a picture of his experiments. Up here, you compare generations. So he experimented with peas, a yellow pea and a green pea. Now he created offspring from those two, and the first generations are all yellow. So that means that the yellow is dominant. So initially Mendel thought, maybe if I combine yellow and green, it would create a color in between, like red, blue, and purple. But no, he was wrong. And then in the second generation, it has one green pea because all of these yellow peas carry the green pea trait. All right, now, why don't we make some offspring? Do I have any volunteers? No, it's okay. I took the liberty of creating offspring for our stepbrothers. Okay. But we all know that Mr. Welsh else wears a skirt in the relationship?
Oh.
All right, now
Ouch.
here's a baby boy rocking out to his songs like
Oh my
and their baby girl. All right. Now genetics also are like eye color relates to everything about your song. So I use this app, an app store called Voto, and it helps me a lot with gathering data and information. It's free in the App Store, and I collected 2,711 people who answered my survey. And the question was, what is your natural eye color? Now the downside to this survey is that it doesn't give you the exact number of people who answered each category. Here, out of 2,711 people, 30% chose blue, 39% chose brown, 14% chose green, and 17% chose hazel. All right, and I compared this to people in Brainerd. So my hypothesis was, is there a difference between the people who took the online survey and the people who took the survey in Brainerd with respect to their eye color? And my null hypothesis was, there is no difference between the people who answered the survey online and the people who answered the survey in Brainerd with respect to their eye color. Now here is a graph of my data. As you can see right here, obviously brown takes the cake for each graph. But on the online survey, the blue eyes actually are catching up. So you can see a difference between those two. Now here is a chart of all my data. 2011 total for the online survey, 54 total for Brainerd, and 2,765 for the total. Okay, so I input all of my observed, everything that I got from each category. And for the expected, what I did was I took the total of the online survey and the total of everything, and then I divided those two, and then I multiplied it by this number by each category. For BrainWorks, we had 35 for who chose brown, 10 for hazel, 4 for blue, and 5 for green. And the way I calculated my chi-square was using this formula, observed minus expected square over expected, and that gave me a chi-square of 18.967. And the probability of that happening is less than 0.005. So I had to reject the null hypothesis, and there is a difference. So the probability of getting that chi-square of 18.967 or higher, and the null hypothesis being true, I didn't mention that, sorry, I caught myself, is less than 0.5% happening. So now let's make a Punnett square for eye color. If you have brown dominant eyes like myself, because I'm Asian, okay, so, and if I were to have offspring with someone who had heterozygous gene of green eyes, so what is the possible chance of me having a kid with green eyes? So we have to do the math, like a multiplication chart. Because Mr. Welsh, you can't do science without math, right? Okay, so that would give me a 0% chance of having an offspring with green eyes. Now mutations. Mutations is they are permanent change in your DNA. So that can happen two ways. One, genetically, or two, it can be acquired. So that means environmental changes may alter your DNA. As you can see this picture here, that it can happen in animals too. It's common among this is a husky, so they must have had a mutation some time ago. Now for of mice and men, so I just got done talking about mutations. Now we get into Of Mice and Men. So Lenny, one of the main characters of Mice and Men, he is mentally challenged. So what is a possible chance of, let's say these were Lenny's parents, and the little a being the trait of autism, because we know that he may possibly have autism. So you do the math, okay. So that would give us a 1/4 or 25% chance of their kid having autism. So that might have been Lenny. Now George and Lenny, they both had this dream. They wanted to own a farm, but they were migrant workers. It was hard for them to have this dream come true. They didn't have a foundation, but they had this big dream that they were going to own this farm, and Lenny was going to tend to the rabbits. So they finally met this man. His name was Candy, and they negotiated this plan make their dreams come true. As for me, I am the opposite of George and Lenny. I have a foundation, I have an education, I have somewhere to start with, but I don't have a dream as of right now. I'm not sure what I want to do with my life yet. That's why for ICAT, Integrated Community and Technology, Mr. Welsh told me that I had to make a high school action plan, and I wasn't excited about this. So I plan to do whatever it takes to make a better foundation for myself. So whether you have a foundation or not, or if you don't have a dream yet, it's all about applying yourself. So how do you do that? For ICAD, Mr. Welsh is talking all about writing scholarships, grants. Right now we're making a Starbucks grant about networking and technology and everything that I can do to make a better future for myself. So what's in store for the future? Robots, flying cars, hopefully some idiot doesn't start a zombie apocalypse. Okay? Because everyone in this audience here, you guys are all our future. You can do anything that you want to do. So for my presentation, I'd like to give you all some words of wisdom. We blame society, but we are society. Now think about it. Back today, for example, women are expected to be a certain way. You see magazines of women that are like a size 0. And back then, they were kind of expected to be the opposite. Women are expected to be thicker so they can have produce for their children. So all of you guys, you can change the society. Like back then, everyone originally had brown eyes, but one person caused mutation. Now millions of people around the world have blue eyes. Now what if every single one of you guys gave off positive energy and try to work to improve yourself and become a better person? Now that would help out a lot. So that concludes my presentation. Thank you everyone for your time.
Okay, I'll start the ball rolling. So, a wealth of information. You just had so much in there. I mean, from classes we didn't even expect, and that was amazing. I liked your audience participation. You have a natural way of presenting, which means you're a very personal person up there. There's no robotic kind of ness to you at all. It's very much your personality showing through, and that carries the conversation and the presentation a long way. I thought your integrations were all real smooth. You made deep connections and deep thoughts in every one of them. My only small criticism is your theme or your title didn't really fit with the overall kind of integration. And so your evolution society is such a broad term that it was kind of hard. And what I would tell you next time is when you're done with your or when you're done with everything, you've got it all together, go back and look through it, because there's probably some themes or some ideas that would have fit a little bit better. It's a very small criticism. Overall, I thought you did a really good job. I think you rushed yourself a little bit because you still have you started late, so you still have about 5 or 6 minutes. You could have extended it out a little bit and not felt as much pressure to get through. But Miracle, that was a great job. And I think you need to start, I think you personally do a lot of comparisons to other people, right? You tend to look at yourself and compare yourself to other people. But your strength is very unique. I mean, you have this combination of not just personality and the ability to present and talk to people, but you're extremely intelligent also. And overall, I think the presentation, not necessarily the overall content, but your presentation was probably the strongest in terms of personality that I've seen up to this point. And you need to congratulate yourselves on those strengths, because it's going to carry you a long way. Great job.
You did a great job with your math. I really liked how you kind of went outside the box and you did this online survey. You compared that theoretical online population, whoever it was, to BrainWorks, and you kind of went through it. I wish you had mentioned the fact that, hey, you had 4 possible choices, so your degrees of freedom were a little bit different. But you still went through it well. You're just so rushed. And like, take a deep breath. And go through it, just go a little slower, because we do have time. So it's not like, and so maybe you were a little worried about having time or not, but you had so much energy, it was difficult not to follow you, because it was like, oh, I want to know what's going on. She's so excited. I'm going to be excited too. So that was good. It was exciting to see that you are a really good presenter. Just like slow down a little bit, but that's a huge strength that you have.
Mirabelle, I just want to kind of echo that. We were talking about passion earlier. That's the passion we're talking about, okay? And critical thinking here at BrainWorks, we have a lot of standards. We have logic, breadth, depth, precision, accuracy. significance, fairness. Man, you were hitting on all of them, and especially the depth. And if this truly is a showcase of what you learned throughout the unit, you displayed that. I mean, just to give an example of science, you talked about sickle cell anemia, genetics, you talked about haploid, diploid, homozygous, heterozygous, zygote formation, Mendel, the father of genetics. You went into so many crazy things, Punnett squares, that I came away that you're the teacher, you know? And that was awesome. You put appropriate humor in there, you spiced it up. One little thing is you were pacing a lot, and that became a little distracting. Your shadow was kind of coming in. You had just going back and forth a little too quickly. You know, but and you do have some things to polish up. But man, you stood out as someone to look out for, because you not only did your presentation, but you were emphasizing thoughts for the future. You were challenging your peers. You were challenging us to make a better society. And wow, I think this is one of the best defensive masteries I've seen. Nice job.
I had a question. Did you create the karaoke video?
No.
Oh, I just wasn't sure. Just explain which part was your product next time. I wasn't quite sure. Great job.
I thought it was really cool how you related the song to your topic and you sang it with the audience, because that gets us involved, and that's really good. I loved how you used the Punnett squares and you kept jumping from math to science to English, and that's cool. I really like Punnett squares. So I'm glad you used it.
Lots and lots of information. I agree, very lively presentation. And pacing is okay, but you have to pace over here. You can't go in front of the projector. But I think, excuse me, for especially for someone coming from outside, not having the background of what you were learning in classes, just a little more clearly defined either transitions or connections between that we're pulling all of these things back into your theme, because they were really well integrated, but I couldn't, sometimes I had to wait and then go back and figure out how it was connected to what you were doing. But yeah, really powerful presentation.
My only advice is, I think originally you were planning to sing the song very strongly, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, you have an amazing voice, and that would have carried your product even farther. The integration or the application with the audience is good, but you could have maybe sung a little and then asked everybody to join in for the second half, right? Because then you could have really demonstrated your voice, which I've heard before. So it's an amazing voice. And then we could have been interacting at the same time, right? And maybe that was just nerves trying to get it going, but don't be afraid to showcase what you got, is what I'm telling you.
A couple of technical things with that. So we could give you a mic, like we could set you up with a mic to project your voice. And then also on the instrumental part, when you were actually giving us the information, just make sure to turn down the instrumental music a little bit, so you're not having to yell over the music.
Great job.